Hey guys, it's Troy coming at you with another video. Forge a mythic identity for yourself, okay? Now, it's not that the way that you are naturally is not good enough, and it's not certainly about pretending to be somebody else, but it is about stepping in to an amplified, technicolor version of yourself, as opposed to just presenting as a regular guy, okay? Because the one thing that you want to avoid, okay? The one thing that you want to avoid is just being another regular guy, taking his shot, giving it a go, let's see what happens. Okay, you have to have more dynamism than that. You really do. You have to be the mover and shaker. You have to be the person who is creating the action, okay? You have to be the one who is the galvanizing force in any kind of nascent or new relationship, right? And how do you do that? Well, you do that by being a mythic version of yourself. You don't do that by just being a regular, normal, in inverted commas, dude, okay? And this is why I'll do these videos, and we'll talk about sort of the need to stand out from the crowd, you know, the need to be prepared to be different, the need to be prepared to, you know, not just be the average normie dude, okay? You've got to find ways to stand out. You've got to find ways to differentiate yourself, okay? Because if you don't do that, then the reality and the sad truth of the matter is that really, unfortunately, you're probably going to get overlooked. So how do you go about setting up this mythic version of yourself? How do you go about creating this mythic identity? Well, it's actually very straightforward. You don't need to overthink it. There's probably already a lot of people who you look up to and admire, okay? There's probably movie stars that you love, okay? There are probably musicians who you love. There are probably writers, poets, artists, etc., who you admire, not just for their work, although that's important, but also for their demeanor, the way they presented themselves, okay? So Francis Bacon, the British painter who used to live and, well, used to go out and drink around here in Soho in London, and would drink in the afternoon, get uproariously drunk on that very street, I think, amongst others, and then every morning in his studio in Kensington would get up early and would paint, okay? A man with a dissolute lifestyle, but also an incredibly important force in British art and British painting, okay, in the last century. You could look at somebody like that and you can think, okay, well, I want to channel a little bit of that energy, okay? David Bowie is another one, right? You know, both a wonderful, amazing artist, but also somebody who personally, with his style and with his charm, with his grace and appetite for reinvention, can be, you know, a personal hero of yours, for example. I mean, that's just two random examples. Brad Pitt, okay, who's reinvented himself in so many movies and still looks fantastic even now in his 60s, all right? Another, you know, guy who could be a personal hero for you. Whoever yours are, they're going to be different. It doesn't really matter. But select those people and think about, okay, so how can I take a little bit of what that person is channeling, and how can I channel it for myself, okay? And there's going to be ways of doing it, all right? There's going to be ways of doing it. It's not like you have to imitate that person. It's not like you have to pretend to be them. But look at the way that they are. Look at the way that they conduct themselves in both their work and in the way that they present themselves publicly, but also things like interviews as well, or TV appearances and so on. And try to figure out, and you can do some journaling around this if you like, try to figure out, okay, so what is it that I like about this person? What is it that I admire about this person? This performer, when they go on stage, you know, I find it galvanizing, I find it magnetic. What is it that I like about them? What are they doing? And then really try to break it down. Try to think in your mind, okay, so what are the components of this person's presentation that makes them magnetic? Because if I like them, and a bunch of other people like them as well, there must be some reason for that. So really try to get into the mechanics of it. And then have a think, okay, well look, I'm not a dissolute painter in the 1950s in Soho, but is there something that I can take from this guy that can help to strengthen my own mythos? You know, maybe it's the artistic vision. Maybe it's the uncompromising nature of his lifestyle. Maybe it is something to do with his discipline, you know, the fact that he would get up every morning and commit to the work no matter what, okay? So maybe that's three things that you could take and just sort of try to weave them into your personality. Again, I have to emphasize, this is not, and I repeat, not about pretending to be that person or pretending to be someone that you're not. But it is about thinking, okay, so I've got these people that I admire, I've got these heroes for you. What is it that they're doing that makes me admire them? And what can I learn from that? And what can I take on board? And what can I channel from that person You know, so when I'm out in the social realm, when I'm out and, you know, going on dates or interacting with people, is there a little bit of whatever magic they've got that I can take for myself and I can use in order to create a more heightened version of myself, in order to create a more impressive, sort of heightened, interesting, sexy, magnetic version of myself, okay? Because that ultimately is what you want to do. Because once again, if you just show up as the regular dude on a date, okay, who's about to read out his LinkedIn profile in his Ted Baker suit, then yeah, fine, okay. I mean, you might be a nice bloke, you might, you know, you might get a warm reception or warmish reception, but you're not really setting the world on fire, okay? And what we're concerned with here is setting the world on fire, okay? Not literally, but figuratively. So think about ways in which you can do that. And a really good key into this is to think about people that you admire. You know, and if you don't admire anybody, then think about why that is. And I'm not saying hero worship. I mean, hero worship is a terrible thing, and no man should hero worship other men. But at the same time, you can think, okay, this person has got something, I buy into it, why is that, okay? And then break it down and see what you can use. You know, and take the stuff that resonates with you and leave the rest. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Do subscribe to my Substack, the link is below. Do subscribe to this channel, give me a like, write a comment below, give me a share, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.